My name is Talia Monroe. I'm 34 years old, and for the past decade, I've made a quiet life in a third-floor walk-up on the east side of Atlanta. I work from home as a freelance graphic designer. Logos, branding decks, annual reports, clean lines, clean work. I keep things simple, measured, quiet. Maybe that's why no one noticed when I slipped out of the family story. Or maybe they noticed. Maybe that was the point. The letter arrives on a Wednesday morning, dropped on my doormat without ceremony. It's thick, the kind of envelope that doesn't bend. My name, Miss Talia Ann Monroe, is printed in careful script across the front. There's no return address, just a faint scent of paper dust and perfume clinging to the ivory cardstock. It looks like something you'd get from a wedding planner, but when I flip it over, I see the seal. Whitmore and Cole, estate and probate attorneys. Inside one page, no greeting, just a form line and a date, 2 days from now. A.W.I.L. reading, Charleston 11:00 a.m. That's it. No phone call, no email, not even a signature. I sit back on my couch and stare at the paper in my hand. The silence is thick. Outside my window, the city hums in a slow, early spring rhythm. Somewhere below, a dog barks and a delivery truck groans past. Life moves. But here in this room, something has stalled. Camille said she'd call. She said at the funeral that she'd keep me in the loop. That was nearly 2 weeks ago. She'd planned every detail of our mother's memorial without asking. The venue, the announcements, the flowers, white lilies, of course, like Mother preferred when she wanted to make a statement. Camille even issued a press release to the alumni newsletter at Darlington School. I'd found out about the actual burial date through a neighbor who saw it posted online. I did get a seat in the back row. No program, no acknowledgement. And afterward, Camille hugged donors and old friends in a tight black dress, while I stood alone near the cedar tree where Mother used to read. That was the last time I saw her. Camille, not Mother. My sister's heels clicked away from me like punctuation. Final dismissive. I look down at the letter again. Then I reach into the drawer of my side table and pull out a silk scarf folded in careful thirds. It's soft, cream-colored, and stitched with light blue initials. D.M. Delilah Monroe. My mother gave it to me 3 years ago, quietly one afternoon when I brought her homemade broth and helped her sit on the back porch. Her hands trembled. Her voice was thinner than I remembered, but she smiled when she pressed it into my hand. For the days they try to forget you, she said. I didn't ask what she meant. I unfold it now and hold it in my lap, the stitching faint but still visible. The last thing she gave me before the distance between us became public record. The last thing that felt like care. My phone buzzes once on the table. A work notification, a reminder about a deadline. I ignore it. The letter sits heavy on my lap, balanced next to the scarf. For a long moment, I just watch the sunlight pass over both objects as if waiting for one to explain the other, but nothing speaks. I pack that afternoon. Not much, just a weekender bag and a stack of client files I'll never open. I call a neighbor to check my plants. I close the laptop, power off the router, and stand by the front door for 5 full minutes before I walk out. By Friday morning, I'm behind the wheel of a borrowed Honda Civic headed southeast, windows down to let the salt air in Charleston. Is 3 hours from Atlanta, but it feels like another lifetime. As I drive, I try not to think of the last time I was at the estate, Camille's engagement brunch maybe, or some alumni fundraiser for the Historical Society. I remember the hydrangeas were in bloom, blue, heavy, and vivid against the pale stone walls. I remember standing at the edge of the garden while Camille introduced our mother like she was a trophy on a pedestal. I was handed a glass of wine and forgotten. Again. When I pull up to the old iron gate, it opens slowly, reluctantly, like it knows I'm not supposed to be here. The house comes into view. Tall, symmetrical, perfect. The shutters have been freshly painted. The gravel crunches under my tires in a way that feels louder than it should. I park around back like always. Camille never let me use the front entrance after I moved out. The housekeeper answers the door with a surprised blink. "Oh, Miss Talia, you came." I nod, apparently I'm expected. She says nothing else, just steps aside and lets me in. The air inside smells like lemon oil and lavender soap, exactly the way it did when Mother ran the household with checklists and folded napkins. Everything looks polished, quiet set. I'm not sure what they expect from me, but I've stopped expecting much from them. I carry the letter and the scarf in the same hand as I walk through the halls. My footsteps sound muffled against the woven rugs. At the base of the staircase, I pause and touch the railing. The wood is smooth, varnished, still warm from the sun seeping through the tall windows. It used to be home. Now it's a Set A museum. The last room I pass is the library. Mother's books still line the shelves, though I imagine Camille's had them curated for appearance. The copy of Wuthering Heights I left dog-eared on the armchair has been replaced. I doubt she even noticed. I sit in the sunroom waiting for the others to arrive. I watch the hydrangeas bloom just outside the glass, still blue, still full. I rest the scarf in my lap and breathe. 2 days' notice. No call, no warning. Just a single-page invitation to a room where they've written me out again. But this time I'm walking in with my eyes open. This time I'm not folding. The Monroe estate in Charleston hasn't changed much since I was 15. The shutters are still painted a soft green that looks silver in the morning light. The brick still holds that aged rose hue, the kind of color tourists stop to photograph, and the hydrangeas. Mother's pride still stretch along the stone wall like a floral moat, blue too bright to be real, bobbing softly in the breeze. But it doesn't feel like home. Not anymore. Maybe not ever. The gravel crunches under my flats as I park around back. Front drive is reserved for Camille's guests, always has been. When we were kids, I thought it was just habit. Now I know it was hierarchy. The back door opens before I knock. Alma, the housekeeper, stands in her usual apron, her hair pinned neatly. She looks older, worn, thinner. Her eyes flick toward my bag, then up to my face. You came. I was invited, I say, though it doesn't sound like certainty. She steps aside without a word. I pass through the kitchen, the smell of lemon polish thick in the air. Camille's touch. Every surface gleams. Every vase has fresh-cut lilies. There's a tray of cucumber water on the counter, the glasses rimmed in condensation, waiting like props. As I walk through the hallway, I see the foyer's been redone. The family portraits, once haphazard in their antique frames, are now curated like a museum wall. Camille stands front and center in the largest one, her college graduation photo flanked by our parents' formal poses. Mine is missing. The one of me at 17, holding my art portfolio with a shaky smile used to hang to the side of the stairwell. Gone. I pause for half a second, then keep walking. Through the glass doors at the end of the hall, I spot the canopy Camille had set up on the back terrace cream and striped a long table dressed in linen stretches beneath it, flanked by white folding chairs. I count at least 20 guests already seated or milling about, most of them relatives I haven't seen since before Mother got sick. The men wear pastel button-downs and boat shoes. The women have sun hats and pearls sipping from porcelain teacups like they're filming a commercial for garden parties. I step outside. The air is thick with cut grass and expensive perfume. No one turns to greet me. No one waves. Garden attire, Camille says smoothly, as if she's been waiting. She steps toward me from a cluster of guests. Her dress is white linen, draped in a way that says old money and curated control. Her voice floats saccharine and sharp. Did the invitation get lost in your inbox? I glance down at my outfit, a navy cotton dress I bought off a clearance rack, clean pressed quiet. My shoes are worn at the heel. I don't remember the invite, including a dress code, I say evenly. She tilts her head the way she used to when I asked too many questions at the dinner table. Oh, I just assumed you'd remember how we do things. I was never very good at remembering your rules, I reply, then step past her. A few eyes flick toward me, then away. Aunt Clara gives a polite smile. Uncle Raymond nods without making eye contact. The rest stay quiet. I take a seat at the far end of the table near the edge where the shade fades. My name card is printed in elegant cursive. Ms. T. Monroe. Not Talia, not daughter of Delilah. Just a guest. I slide the card aside. I breathe in lavender from the table centerpiece, salt from the marsh beyond the garden wall, and something bitter under it all, like furniture wax or too ripe fruit. Mother's voice echoes in my head from years ago. Nothing ever smells the same once you've been gone too long. Camille moves with ease through the space, a hand on someone's shoulder, a gentle laugh. Her husband Mark trails a few steps behind her like set dressing. I watch her hand graze the back of Aunt Clara's chair as she leans in to whisper something. Clara's laugh is small, controlled. "This is her theater." She catches my eye and smiles sweetly. "You found your seat." I nod, took a while. Her smile tightens. She turns back to the group just as the lawyer Mr. Crenshaw steps onto the terrace. He's older than I remember, thinner too, his tie just slightly askew. He clears his throat gently. "If everyone is settled, we'll begin." Chairs shuffle, porcelain clinks on saucers. Camille lifts her glass, a practiced toast smile on her lips. "Thank you all for coming. I know how much this house meant to Mother. I think she'd be touched to see us gathered here continuing her legacy." "Her legacy," I murmur. No one hears me, or maybe they do, but silence is easier. Crenshaw opens a folder and places it on the table before him. He adjusts his glasses and begins reading names, confirming attendance. I keep my hands folded in my lap, palms brushing the monogrammed scarf tucked inside my bag. I don't hear most of the introductions. My mind drifts to the garden path that winds behind the hydrangeas. I used to walk it with Mother when I was small. She'd point out butterflies, name plants I couldn't pronounce. Camille never came with us. She didn't like getting dirt under her nails. I glanced toward the path. Now it's still there, hidden behind a hedge, overgrown but intact. Camille never walked that path, but she rewrote the story to make it hers. Crenshaw clears his throat again. "There are a few matters to clarify before we proceed." Camille leans forward slightly. "Of course, we want to make sure everything is dignified." I watch her fingers glide over the edge of her glass. Her nails are painted a soft shell pink, not a chip in sight. This moment, like the party, like the entire event has been curated, clean, polished, lemon-scented. But not for me. The scarf in my bag brushes my fingertips again. Delilah Monroe stitched those letters herself, blue on cream. Her hands were shaking the day she gave it to me, but the thread never frayed. They can polish the floors, replace the photos, plan events around garden canopies and legacy toasts, but that scarf is real. I hold on to it like a truth no one else can see. And I wait. I don't speak, I just watch. The garden terrace is quiet, but not silent. The clink of ceramic cups against saucers, the rustle of linen napkins, the low hum of chatter. Everything carries a carefully tuned civility, but underneath I feel something grinding, too smooth, too orchestrated, like the stage has been set and I've wandered into someone else's scene. Mr. Crenshaw, the estate lawyer, stands at the head of the long table, fingers brushing the leather edge of a thin folder. He's waiting for the room to still. I sit near the end, partially in shadow, directly across from Camille. She hasn't looked at me in 10 minutes, but her posture radiates ease. Ownership. The canopy above ripples gently with the wind, its stripes casting moving shadows over the table. A woman 2 seats down adjusts her sun hat and whispers something to her husband. I catch the word awkward. I don't know if it's about me or just the heat. Then I see it. Camille shifts slightly in her chair. Her right hand dips into her handbag. White leather clean lines, brand name turned just so. From it she removes a folded piece of paper. Quick, smooth. Her fingers barely brush it before she lowers her hand beneath the tablecloth. She leans toward our uncle, Charles' mother's youngest brother, seated beside her. Her hand disappears under the table's edge. There's no exchange, no eye contact, just the soft flick of linen. But I see it. Uncle Charles barely glances down. He clears his throat, once pats the inside of his blazer, and keeps looking straight ahead. I keep still. The folded paper disappears. A beat passes. Then Camille lifts her water glass and takes a small sip, her pinky finger poised just right. She sets it down with a light click and looks around the table like she's surveying a private club. She built herself. Well, she says brightly, her voice carrying just enough. I'm just glad Talia could make it. I didn't think we were allowing +1s. A pause. Then nervous laughter. Tight short. Like a ripple skipping over the surface of something deeper. I say nothing. I meet her eyes for half a second, then lower mine to my chipped coffee cup, the one I pulled from the sideboard because all the fine china was already placed. It's white with a fading rose pattern and a hairline crack near the handle, one of Mother's older ones. I prefer it. Mr. Crenshaw taps his fingers against the folder, drawing attention back. He looks tired but alert. We'll begin with formal acknowledgments of presence. I appreciate everyone taking the time to be here on behalf of the Monroe family and to honor Delilah's final wishes. Camille nods as if she's being thanked personally. He reaches into his briefcase and produces a single sheet of paper with a glossy blue header. Miss Monroe, he says, looking directly at me. This is a standard acknowledgement form, just confirming your attendance and participation. If you'll sign here. He offers the document. I take it. No details. No list of attendees. Just my name and a blank line. I glance up. Camille is looking away, but Mark. Her husband shifts beside her, glancing down at the paper, then quickly back at his lap. Aunt Clara leans toward me slightly. They didn't ask me to sign anything when Harold passed. She whispers more to herself than to me. I nod faintly. I'd like a copy of this. Crenshaw looks up surprised, then nods. Of course I'll provide it after we conclude. I slide the form back to him unsigned for now. He doesn't press. Camille exhales a soft sigh, just audible enough for the people nearby to hear. The kind of sigh that says patience, grace, inconvenience. She taps her nails lightly against her glass. A rhythm, polished, dismissive. She was always very thorough, Camille says to no one in particular, especially near the end. All those late-night calls with Talia. So emotional. Another ripple of sound moves through the guests. A cousin shifts in his seat. A family friend adjusts her sunglasses. It's not agreement, but it isn't pushback either. I stay silent. She wants a scene. She wants me to react. I learned long ago that Camille thrives on response. Every raised voice, every hurt expression feeds her. So I give her nothing. I sit back, hands resting in my lap, and let her performance wash past. Mr. Crenshaw clears his throat again. He opens the folder. His fingers linger on the first page, smoothing the crease like it might help soften the words. If we're all settled, he says, I'll now begin reading the final will and testament of Delilah Ann Monroe, dated July 9th of last year. That date flickers in my mind. A week after Camille tried to get Mother transferred to the private care facility near the new shopping district, I remember the argument, the phone call. Mother sobbing softly, saying she didn't want to go, didn't want to be handled. Crenshaw's voice pulls me back. As per Mrs. Monroe's legally witnessed and notarized, will the following stipulations have been made regarding the Monroe estate and its associated assets? I feel the air shift. The light dapples across the tablecloth. Someone's bracelet clinks softly against a teacup. And Camille folds her hands, her face the picture of poise. But I've already seen what I wasn't supposed to. The handoff, the paper, the game behind the ceremony. And now I'm not here as an outsider. I'm here as a witness. Mr. Crenshaw turns the page. His fingers pause for a moment, barely noticeable, like even he's bracing for impact. The air on the terrace has grown still. Not quiet exactly, but charged. The kind of hush you get before thunder. He clears his throat again, then begins reading. As per the final and legally notarized will of Delilah Ann Monroe, the entirety of her estate, including the Charleston property, all associated financial accounts, personal belongings of significant and sentimental value, and the residual trust shall be transferred in full to her youngest daughter, Talia Ann Monroe. The table doesn't move. Not at first. The only sound is the soft exhale of a breath someone didn't mean to let out. Then a sharp intake of air from across the linen. Camille's water glass tips over. It isn't loud, but the splash of water across the tablecloth draws every eye. The glass rolls to a stop against the silver cutlery with a hollow clink. No one moves to write it. Crenshaw keeps reading undeterred. However, per the decedent's express wishes, this transfer is contingent upon the following. Miss Monroe must reside in the Charleston estate for a period of no less than 12 months. During this time, no sale, redevelopment, or financial reassignment of the property shall be permitted. Furthermore, he pauses. Camille Elise Monroe shall be legally barred from initiating, advising, or facilitating any changes to the structure, ownership, or valuation of the estate for the duration of that year. Silence falls again, but this time it's brittle. Camille stands. Her chair scrapes back, breaking the delicate atmosphere like a cracked mirror. Her posture is rigid, arms trembling just slightly at her sides. For a moment, she doesn't speak. Then she laughs once, sharp and brittle. This is absurd. Her voice is louder than anything that's been said all morning. This isn't what she wanted. Talia wasn't even here for the last 2 years. She lived in Atlanta pretending to care from behind a screen, while I was the one dealing with the hospital visits, the medication schedules, the long-term care options. Mr. Crenshaw looks up but says nothing. She manipulated her Camille snaps, turning to the guests. Don't you see that? All those whispered calls, all those guilt trips. She was lonely, vulnerable, and Talia took advantage of it. I don't look at her, I can't. Instead, I reach into my bag and find the scarf. The silk is warm, now soft in my palm. The monogram DM stitched in that shaky but determined hand. It steadies me. I press the fabric gently between my fingers and breathe in. My mind drifts back. Hospice wasn't glamorous. It wasn't even clean half the time. The room smelled like antiseptic and wilted flowers. The machines hummed quietly, a soft, mechanical lullaby that kept rhythm with Mother's shallower breaths. I remember spooning broth to her mouth while she tried to hold the bowl steady herself. Her hands shook too much. Her voice had grown so faint I sometimes had to lean in just to hear her ask for water. And I remember one night late, just the two of us, when she reached for my hand, that same scarf looped loosely around her neck, her fingers pressed mine with what little strength she had left. Don't let them take everything, she whispered. I didn't know what she meant. Not entirely. I thought it was about the house, the books, the garden. I understand now. Camille's voice pulls me back. She even skipped the funeral, she says, her voice pitching higher. She stood at the edge like a stranger. She didn't even cry. That part stings, because it's true, I didn't cry. Not because I didn't feel the grief, but because it had no place to land. My grief didn't fit the seating chart. Mr. Crenshaw finally lifts his gaze. These terms were written by Mrs. Monroe in her own hand. The will is legally binding, witnessed by 2 independent parties, and notarized on July 9th. She was confused, Camille says quickly, her voice cracking. She didn't know what she was signing. You said yourself she had good days and bad days. She was tired, says Aunt Clara softly from her seat, not confused. Camille turns to her stunned. I was there, Clara continues. Delilah was sharp that week, clearer than she'd been in months. Camille opens her mouth again, but nothing comes out. The table holds still. I don't rise, I don't speak, I just run my thumb across the scarf, its hem gently fraying, now worn from time and handling. They wanted to give me nothing, not even space, not even mourning. But my mother left me this, her trust, her house, and the words she whispered when no one else was around. I glance toward the hydrangeas again. They haven't moved. Neither have I. Let Camille scream. Let her flail in the silence she once used to cut me out. I have no need to raise my voice, because this time the will spoke for me. The envelope is thick beige and stamped with the words, Superior Court of Fulton County. It arrives on a Tuesday, wedged stiffly into my mailbox like it resents being delivered at all. I bring it inside, set it on the kitchen counter, and stare at it while the kettle warms. The room is quiet, except for the soft whir of the refrigerator. Morning light slides in through the blinds, slicing the space into gold and dust. I open the envelope with steady hands. It's official, Camille is contesting the will. The term used is undue influence. According to the filing, I manipulated our mother in her final days, used guilt and emotional pressure to rewrite the estate plan for personal gain. She calls it an unjust redirection of inheritance. The tone is clinical, almost bored, but the implication is clear. I'm a liar, a thief, a fraud. She's not trying to win. She's trying to erase me again, this time in ink. I finish my tea, rinse the cup, and walk down the hallway to the room I call my office. The hardwood creaks just before the door. I step inside, flick on the lamp, and kneel in front of the oak filing cabinet that hasn't moved since I hauled it in during my second year living here. It sticks like always. I jiggle the middle drawer until it gives way with a soft groan. The red folder is in the back, labeled in thick black ink, Backup, DM. My mother's initials. I pull it out and lay it flat on the desk. It's heavier than I remember. I open it. The first thing I see is a notarized document dated 1 month before her death, a legal addendum to her will. Her signature is shaky but clear. The notary seal is pressed deep into the page. 2 witnesses, both hospice staff. It states explicitly that she wishes to leave her estate to me with a clause that ensures the house will be preserved for at least a year. Her language is direct, not coerced, not confused. Just tired and certain. Underneath that is a folder of email printouts. Forwarded messages from Camille to a realtor. Subject line preliminary plans. Monroe Estate. The timestamps show the messages were sent while our mother was still alive, recovering from pneumonia. There are references to potential renovations, ideal buyer pool, and price point estimates for postmodern staging. I remember that week I was in Charleston sleeping on the small cot in Mother's room. Camille had come in for a few hours, dropped off pressed juice and some wellness brochures, then left. She didn't mention the house once. Beneath the emails are photocopies of bank statements, 4 separate withdrawals from a joint account, 1 for a down payment on a new car, 2 for jewelry boutique, purchases, 1 for a high-end wellness spa. None of it marked as a gift. There's a note clipped to the last page in my mother's handwriting. Keep these just in case. I press my hand flat on the folder, the paper warm from my touch. Then I reach for the small voice recorder tucked in the front pocket. It's dated 2 months before her death. A soft click, a pause, then her voice thin but calm. Darling, if you're hearing this, it means Camille's done something again. I hope she hasn't. But just in case. I forget later, you'll know. She says my name. She says she's proud of me. She says I'm not confused. I know what I want. I want to be buried from my home. I want the hydrangeas to bloom before they paint over everything. I close my eyes. For a moment, the house disappears. The paperwork disappears. It's just her voice and the wind outside the window. She knew. She knew exactly what was happening. I don't cry. I haven't cried since the night I folded her scarf back into my suitcase after the funeral. Camille orchestrated without my input. I don't even feel angry anymore. I feel anchored. I place the recorder on the desk, gather the documents, and slip them into a clean folder. Then I pull out my phone and scroll until I find the number for the legal clinic I'd visited 2 years ago. I helped a friend through a conservatorship battle she won. I press call. A soft click, a cheerful voice answers. This is the Georgia Legal Resource Center. How can we help? Yes, I say. I need to schedule a consultation regarding a probate dispute. I have full documentation, including notarized materials, financial records, and a dated audio file. There's a brief pause on the line. Do you have supporting documentation? I have more than that. I reply. I have her voice. I spend the rest of the afternoon scanning everything I create backups. I upload copies to a cloud folder. I email a summary to the legal clinic with attached files and timestamps. I even print out an index organized by type: financial, legal, personal. By the time the sun dips behind the row of buildings across the street, the evidence is lined up on my desk in neat rows. Facts, not feelings. Proof that I was never the problem. I make tea, stand by the window, and let the quiet wrap around me. Camille wanted a war over paper. She forgot I knew where the originals were buried. By the time I arrive at the courthouse, the press has already formed a half moon at the base of the front steps. Cameras are hoisted onto shoulders, microphones pointed like weapons. People murmur in clumps, shifting under the soft heat of a Charleston morning. Camille is standing at the center of it, all swathed in lavender. It's the same coat she wore to Mother's memorial, tailored just so the color chosen with purpose. Soft, feminine, approachable. Her hair is curled in loose waves, eyes lined delicately. A pearl pin glints at her lapel. A touch of mourning, a touch of money. She was confused. She's saying, her voice trembling just enough to feel practiced. Grief is hard. Watching a parent fade is hard, and when families aren't united, it's even harder. I only ever wanted what was best for her. The journalist holding the mic, a woman with a press badge and a notepad tucked beneath her elbow, nods solemnly. Your sister alleges you mishandled finances and that your mother amended her will in response to that. Do you deny these claims? Camille's smile falters for half a breath, then recovers. I can't speak to her motivations, she says, voice silked in sadness. But I do know this money changes people. I don't walk up quickly. I don't interrupt. I let the moment stretch. Then I step into view. The lavender coat draws the cameras first, but the charcoal suit I wear cuts through the frame like a clean line. No ruffles, no color, just shape, just substance. The lead journalist notices me before Camille does. Miss Monroe, she calls out, turning. Would you like to respond to your sister's statement? I nod once, no smile. I reach into my tote and pull out a sealed manila envelope. The flap is pressed flat and labeled in blue ink, T. Monroe. Submission. A inside is everything. I offer it without a word. She accepts it, eyes narrowing slightly in curiosity. Her fingers work quickly. The seal opens with a faint tear. She pulls out the document's thick, clean copies. Her gaze sharpens as she reads. Camille's voice floats behind us, still pitching a narrative. I just hope the court sees through the noise she's saying. This isn't about greed. It's about honoring our mother. The journalist finishes the first 2 pages. Her mouth tightens. These are hospice notes, she says quietly. I nod, dated and signed with notary verification. She flips to the next page and bank statements. From my mother's joint account, withdrawals Camille claimed were gifts, none of them listed, none of them approved. A murmur stirs at the edge of the press line. Then someone else steps forward. She's small, sturdy, with a nurse's badge still clipped to her collar. Her uniform is faded at the edges, name tag visible. Jeanette Holloway, she says clearly, night nurse for Mrs. Monroe during her last 6 months. Camille turns. Her face shifts in stages, confusion, then disbelief. I submitted a report, Jeanette says to the journalist. Back in July, Miss Camille came into the hospice suite and raised her voice. She waved a checkbook in her mother's face. Tried to get her to sign something while she was still recovering from pneumonia. A beat of silence. She cried herself to sleep that night, the nurse adds. Said she didn't want to be moved. Said she trusted her younger daughter. Camille's breath catches. This is a stunt. She says she's lying or confused. She's not confused, I say quietly. Camille turns to me fully now. You're unbelievable. You're actually using staff to smear me. I meet her gaze. I'm using the truth. The press shifts again, eyes bouncing between us. You can say I manipulated her, I continue. But I have her words. I have her handwriting. I have her signed, will. Camille's hands clench. She didn't know what she was doing. She knew exactly what she was doing, I reply. She changed her will the same week you gave a realtor a tour of the backyard while she was in recovery. Camille goes pale. You think I don't know about the spa visits, the new lease on your car, the boutique charges? She saw it all. She forwarded the statements to me herself. She steps back, not answering. I turn to the journalist. I'm not here to destroy her. I say I'm here to protect what my mother asked me to protect. My sister can call me whatever she wants, but she can't rewrite my mother's voice. Behind me, the nurse offers a slow, silent nod. The moment is still. Not triumphant. Not loud. Just still. Camille turns back to the cameras. Her face is still composed, but her posture has shifted. Her shoulders, once drawn back in performance, have slumped slightly forward. She says nothing else. The journalist lowers her pen. Thank you, she says to me. Then turning back to the nurse. Can we speak on the record? I step away from the group and walk toward the courthouse steps. The cameras don't follow. They stay on Camille lavender coat creased now pearl pin off-center voice quiet. The courthouse doors are cool against my hand as I push them open. Inside, the air smells like paper and filtered air. Clean, dry. I let it settle into my lungs. Camille wanted to control the narrative. But facts don't need perfume. The courtroom is colder than I expected. Not in temperature, but in tone sterile. Restrained quiet in the way a chapel is quiet before a funeral begins. I sit near the front with my attorney to my right and the red folder balanced neatly on my lap. Camille is already in position across the aisle, her attorney whispering something into her ear. She nods once slow and grave, the picture of burdened dignity. Behind us, the gallery is nearly full. Family press. A few faces I recognize from years ago, all watching like they've paid for front row seats to a play. They forgot they were part of. The judge enters. We rise. He's older with silver hair and an expression sharpened by long hours. His voice, when he speaks, is calm and dry. We are here to address the probate of the estate of Delilah Ann Monroe Counsel. You may proceed. Camille stands. Her hands are clasped in front of her, and for a moment she looks almost sincere. Your Honor, she begins. This is not just a matter of legal paperwork. This is a matter of intention, of clarity. My mother was in and out of lucidity in her final months. I was her primary caretaker for over a year. I arranged her medical appointments. I managed her finances. I was the one here on the ground doing the hard things. She opens a folder and lifts a document into view. This is the original will dated April of last year. It names me as the sole executor and inheritor of her estate. It was signed, witnessed, and notarized. We do not dispute that. The judge takes the copy from the bailiff and reviews it silently. Camille continues. What we do dispute, she says, turning slightly toward me, is the claim that my sister, who hadn't lived in Charleston for more than a decade, who visited sporadically, somehow earned full inheritance through an amendment created in the final weeks of my mother's life, when she was vulnerable and grieving. Her voice hitches. We believe that document was the result of emotional manipulation, and we ask the court to reject it on those grounds. She sits. A few heads in the gallery nod slightly. One of our cousins folds his arms. The judge turns to my side, Miss Monroe. You may respond. I rise. I don't look at Camille. I don't look at the gallery. Only at the judge. Yes, Your Honor, I do have an amended will. It is dated July 9th. It was signed, notarized, and witnessed by 2 members of the hospice staff. I hand the USB to the bailiff along with the physical documents from the red folder. The judge takes a moment to review the signatures, then nods. This appears valid. You mentioned a video recording. I nod again. Yes. My mother recorded a statement from her hospice room. I have the court's permission to play it. He gestures to the AV technician. Proceed. The lights dim slightly as the projector comes to life. The screen flickers, then steadies. For a moment, there's only silence and the faint rustling of movement. Then, there she is! Delilah Monroe. Thinner than most in the room remember her. Hair pulled back in a soft scarf. Her cheekbones, prominent skin, pale, but her eyes are clear. And when she speaks, her voice is unmistakably hers. If this is being played, she says gently, then Camille has contested my second will. She'll say, I was confused. She'll say, I didn't know what I was doing. I did. She folds her hands in her lap. I changed my will because she tried to move me out of my home, because she spoke to a realtor behind my back, because she used our joint account to pay for things that were never meant to be hers, because I asked her to wait and she didn't. There is no anger in her voice, only calm. And because Talia was the only one who stayed. Her voice softens. She didn't pressure me. She didn't ask for anything. She brought me soup when I couldn't lift a spoon. She read to me when I couldn't sleep. She held my hand when I couldn't remember how to pray. A pause. She protected me. The screen goes black. No one speaks. The silence stretches thick and full, like breath held across an entire room. The judge clears his throat. The court acknowledges this video as valid testimony. The date matches the revised documentation, which is notarized and supported by witness statements. Camille rises suddenly. She didn't mean it like that. She says, she was scared, she was sick. She didn't know what she was saying. The judge raises his hand. Miss Monroe, you've made your statement. Unless you have legal evidence of fraud, we will proceed with validation of the July 9th document. Camille falters. She was my mother. She says quieter now. She didn't mean to give it all away. I don't respond right away. Then I say clearly, that was her voice. The judge nods once. The court recognizes the July 9th will as the most recent and legally binding version. The estate shall be granted to Talia Ann Monroe as outlined in the document proceedings concluded. His gavel falls with a soft thud. And just like that, it's done. No applause. No eruption. Just quiet. As we stand to leave, Camille doesn't look at me. Her face is tight. Her hands grip her bag like it's the only thing keeping her grounded. I walk past her. I don't slow. Her silence is no longer mine to carry. The house is quieter now. Not the brittle silence it held before the kind laced with tension and closed doors. This quiet is fuller rounder. It sits differently. It lets me breathe. I live alone here now. It's been just under 6 weeks since the court finalized the ruling. Since the will was upheld, the footage played, and the gavel fell like punctuation on a story I never thought I'd be allowed to finish. Camille hasn't called. Not a word. Not a text. I haven't expected one. And for the first time in a long while, I don't feel like I'm waiting for anything. The garden is starting to bloom again. The hydrangeas came in late this year, their blue petals unfolding in heavy clusters. I've taken to watering them at dusk when the sun slips low behind the garden wall and the air thickens with jasmine. My mother planted that jasmine herself back when I was in middle school. She said it made the evenings smell like forgiveness. Tonight, I kneel beside the hose spigot pulling weeds from the edge of the planter box. The earth is soft from yesterday's rain. My hands are dirt-streaked, nails dull. I don't mind. The soil doesn't care who I am. I reach into the old gardening drawer to retrieve a pair of clippers and feel something shift inside. A faint scrape of paper against wood. I pause, push aside the gloves and seed packets, and find it a small cream-colored envelope tucked at the back of the drawer, its edges slightly curled with age. My name isn't on the front. It's addressed in her handwriting, careful and upright. To my watcher. I know it's for me. I sit back on my heels. For a moment, I just hold it. The jasmine stirs in the breeze beside me. The wind chimes above the porch start to sing soft and uneven, like breath catching on memory. I stand, wipe my hands on my jeans, and carry the letter inside. I don't open it at the kitchen counter or under the lamp where I sort mail. I walk through the house through the wide hallway with the lemon-polished floors past the library that still smells faintly of lavender and old paper, and out to the back porch. The swing creaks as I sit. I've oiled it twice since moving in, but the creak refuses to leave, I think. Now I like it that way. It sounds lived in. It sounds like something staying. The sky is gold at the edges, slowly dipping toward indigo fireflies spark in the grass. I open the envelope. The paper inside is folded once, neatly. No frills, no scent, just ink. My darling. You were never loud, but you were always present. That is a kind of strength most people don't know how to see. I saw it. I always did. You showed up. You sat quietly when others spoke too much. You remembered things I didn't even know I'd forgotten. You made space for me to feel small without judgment, and that more than anything is what saved me. Camille filled rooms, but you made space. That was never a flaw. That was your power. I left you the house because you were the only one who saw it as more than property. You saw it as memory, as breath, as a place where people still whispered in the halls, not just talked over each other. I hope it gives you rest. I hope it gives you peace. But if it doesn't, know that you gave it to me. You were never the ghost, my love. You were the keeper of light. Always, Mom. I don't cry. Not all the way. But my throat catches and stays that way for a long while. I fold the letter back and hold it against my chest. The wind chimes rattle again. Somewhere in the distance, a neighbor's porch light clicks on. Another house. Another life. I look out across the yard. The hedges have grown taller. I'll trim them next week. The steps need repainting. The guest room still smells faintly of cedar and dust. There's work to do. But the heaviness is gone, or maybe not gone, just different, less like a weight, more like a reminder. Camille may never apologize. The family might never rewrite their stories to include me. Some of them may always pretend I tricked my way in. I've stopped trying to prove anything to people who already made up their minds. They called me the family ghost. But ghosts are what we make of people we don't understand. I was never lost, I was just watching, waiting, holding on to pieces no one else wanted to carry. Now I carry them by choice. The porch light clicks on above me. I tuck the letter into a small tin on the side table, the same place where my mother used to keep spare keys and seed catalogs. I'll keep it there, not hidden, but not on display. Just somewhere real. I sip the last of my tea and let the breeze lift the edge of the curtain behind me. There's no applause, no music, no triumphant declaration. Just jasmine and dusk and the sound of a home finally breathing again. Some stories are not about winning loudly, but surviving quietly and still standing. Talia Monroe was once the forgotten daughter, the one they labeled invisible, inconvenient, even undeserving. But through lost silence and a house full of old shadows, she found something stronger than inheritance. She found clarity. This was not about property or proving a point. It was about knowing who you are when no one is clapping. Talia did not need to be loud to be heard. She only needed truth, her mother's trust, and the strength to stand when others looked away. If this story moved you, share your thoughts below. Like, comment, or subscribe to hear more stories about quiet resilience, justice, and the kind of strength that doesn't shout but stays.